cloud. Okay, welcome everyone to the Aether TST. Andy, you don't have our usual brigade update. I know you've been away on PTO. Is there anything to convey, or shall we skip that this week?
Yeah, I didn't have anything in particular to report there.
Nothing new. Okay, then. Next topic would be on the QA2 setup network connectivity. Who has that one?
This is me, Amol. So,
Sure.
last couple of weeks, we were trying to bring up the QA2 setup for the testing Ether. However, we are facing some of the problems in the setting area. I think Moon will help. Moon and Hongwei can help about that. So that's why I bring up that topic here. So the network connectivity was having some problem. Means we can see from MME to the NG40 node, we see the init packet, but init acknowledgement packet is not reaching to NG40. So we were trying to do yesterday, me, Badri, Ajay, Jeremy, and Avilash. We all were trying to bring up the things, but it was out of our knowledge regarding the network connectivity. So is it possible for Hyunsun to give some to help us to bring QA2 setup?
Yeah. I think we resolved that issue before. In the QA2 setup with I remember that we had confirmed eNode B was able to successfully connect to MME, and the only thing left was the user plane traffic. Yeah, I think I can
So
check the environment again and help.
So is that possible to come up with some time so that we can sit together and solve that problem together? So that will help us to also understand what exactly happening below that.
Sure. Yeah, let's set up a time.
Sure.
Sometime this week.
Yeah, this week is preferable. It's pretty urgent to get this as a working setup.
Ajay, do you want to comment something?
No, I think that's good. So
okay. Thank you, Hanson. I am really looking forward to get your help because you have designed some of the system that I am not able to understand, and other folks are not able to recover that too. So that will be great help for all of us. Thank you once again.
Hyun-sun, is there anyone else we need to bring into this activity to make sure it keeps moving forward?
Yeah, maybe Huawei might help in SD Fabric side.
Okay.
But I'm actually not to expert on NG40 as well. But I can try. If needed, we may, if I cannot even resolve the issue, we may need to ask NG40 guy. But yeah.
So Yunsun, currently we do see that HTTP init packet reaching the node, and even init is coming back from node to NG40 VM. But on the reverse path, it's not reaching the NG40 VM. So we suspect that reverse route from the node
NG40 VM.
Yeah, that's what was missing. So one-way traffic was reaching, and when the acknowledgement was coming from, which is init was coming from the MME pod. So looks like hopefully the basic connectivity NG40 setup seems to be okay. I mean, we may hit further issues in the NG40, but currently the blocking issue is the routing, reverse routing.
Okay,
That's,
that makes sense.
yeah,
Okay.
that's very actually,
And
this sounds
even
like,
we could see that packets are sent out from the node 2, but we had no way to know whether they are sent from the leaf 2 or leaf 1, and why, whether leaf 2 or leaf 1 was dropping it. But it
but
was not reaching the NG40.
isn't that just I mean, that's not user plane traffic. I don't think it
Oh, no,
passes SD fabric, and sounds like it's just a management network connection between the NG40 node and the Kubernetes cluster node.
Maybe I think the kind of network diagram which was shared by Amol, it was having one NG40, like 4 NG40 VMs in one box connected to leaf 1 and leaf 2, and leaf 1 and leaf 2 connected to three nodes, worker nodes, node 1, node 2, node 3. So I'm not sure now, like the management network, you mean there is some more extra pieces of switches there, which is, or router there, which is not shown in the diagram. So I could see only leaf 1 and leaf 2, these two. I did not see any other switches or router in that setup.
Okay, I think, yeah, I think I'll have to check the
Yeah, I think
diagram again. But normally for control plane traffic, we don't use SD fabric.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe the diagram had something missing, and we were trying to debug using the diagram. And yeah.
Yeah, we can, maybe all of us can join the meeting and review all the configuration again. I actually
That's fine.
forgot the exact configuration. Yeah.
That's kind of my preference, Yunsun, is to bring together whoever we may need, so that as we peel back whatever problems exist, we can knock them all down to get the QA2 setup completely working.
Sure.
So let me know if there's anyone else we need to reach out to. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
So does this setup use the P4 UPF or a software-based UPF?
I also have to check, but I think P4 UPF based, because we know there is a SD fabric installed already.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Thank you, Yunsun. So Intel ID is the best ID I can reach to you, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Next issue is a performance issue. I've not participated in the Slack discussion on this, so does someone want to describe the issue?
I just added this issue because it has come from 3 members till now, 2 from the GS Lab, 1 from the CPQD. And these few lines at the top tells the current understanding, my understanding. We do see that there is, okay, so just to describe, the people have done 2 types of tests. One is like accessing some websites using the browser on mobile, and they're not able to access websites, right? On the other hand, they're able to access some lighter weight websites, let's say Google or some very basic website which doesn't have a lot of data, right? At the same time, so basically that means that basic network connectivity is fine, but there's some issue with some big size packets. And the second issue what people have reported is that the speed test seems to give way low throughput. It has shown as a 1 Mbps sometime. And on the other hand, UDP does show high throughput. Naturally, since UDP, we don't have any back off and all. So that's the reason we see, but we see higher throughput with the UDP. But at the same time, beyond some threshold, we see a lot of packet drops with the UDP. So these are the 2 high level observations made by the community members. And the consistent thing what we have seen in the various packet captures is that there's a lot of retransmissions of the data packets, TCP segments. And we do see the lot of duplicate acknowledgement as well. So one of the things which we have not yet identified is whether it's a packet drop or whether it's a packet latency causing the retransmission, right? So either it's a drop or it's higher latency which is triggering the retransmission. So you have not yet identified this, isolated this problem. Yeah,
Ajay,
that is what summary I can add on. Yeah, maybe Daniel wants to add some more thing. Yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
yeah, just to add, I'm not quite sure if you said, but basically, the problem is specifically with downlink. So uplink works fine, but downlink with TCP specifically do not work fine. We do see a lot of retransmission, some packets being lost. So this is just to add
Yeah.
this
Yes,
topic.
good point. Yeah. So
Where we also reported.
So TCP
Pardon?
downlink, UDP downlink works okay. I don't know if at least checking the text is not saying TCP and UDP. UDP downlink and uplink, they are both okay.
Daniel, just for clarification's sake, when you say downlink, are you referring to the return traffic from the UE? So essentially, it's sending it fine into the internet, but on return, the responses are not working as well.
Yeah, I mean the download of the UE is not performing. It's either hyperf or even going to speed test. Both they are having poor performance of and a lot of retransmission of TCP.
What I'm trying to discern in here is who's the originator of the TCP connection?
for UE,
Uh,
mobile.
Is it the UE?
Yes, it is the UE, but we are using reverse to make the, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine if the bulk of the traffic is reverse, right? You send one request, you get a whole bunch of stuff back, like a file transfer, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I just want to understand who the originator is, because that's where the TCP backoff will happen.
Yeah, yeah. And we must use the reverse because of the net right now.
Yeah, understood.
Wasn't there a problem with MTU recently? Does anybody remember?
Yeah, and I was the one reporting it. I believe we still have the MTU problem, but right now, to try to force to exclude this problem, we are setting the hyperf with a flag M, which makes the packets like smaller. Okay,
All right. But this, you know,
and the problem persists.
I'm asking just because this kind of sounds like an MTU problem. On the downlink is where you'd have maximum size packets coming. So something to look at. And UDP, I don't know if you're setting the packet size and maxing it out. Something else to try.
Yeah, it's a good insight, but we were able to use the flag M, which makes the MSS to a specific size. And the problem persisted. We were not able to get more than 1 megabits. Of course, if we get smaller packets, the throughput is gonna decrease. But either way, it is still fixed by 1 megabit. If we got like 50 megabits or 10 megabits, it would be an increase at least, but it didn't change. So I was thinking initially MTU, but I don't think so right now.
Yeah, it still feels like an MTU problem, to your point, Timon, but you still have to go look.
And the data rate for downlink is much higher than uplink, right? Is uplink still like 10 megabit, whereas downlink is still around 100?
No,
I mean,
my case,
expected to be.
yeah, my case, the uplink with the real UE, we got up to 140 megabits per second with uplink TCP. UDP was a bit higher, and the UDP downlink we got like around 900 megabits per second, but TCP downlink just 1 or 2 megabits per second.
So I was just thinking that's the other issue, is that just the data rates are asymmetric, where the downlink is much more data. If a queue was filling up someplace or something, triggering the retransmits or something, maybe that's just shown more on a downlink connection. Just a thought.
Yeah, but maybe my understanding is that the TCP would be able to automatically get the right amount of packets to get per second, right?
Yeah,
Well,
So
TCP will exponentially back off, right? So it will
Yeah.
it will lower throughput if packets are delayed, not just necessarily discarded along the way,
yeah,
right? So ultimately, it also requires time to recover. So it, we'll have to see what the TCP settings are, but if they're just standard, you will see that back off happen.
yeah. Either forcing a specific amount or letting the automatically we saw the same way of working, let's say.
So the UPF was the bottleneck.
Yeah, Yunsun, so that's where the two questions, right? Whether UPF is adding the latency or whether UPF is dropping the packet. This is where I think at least some of them, so there are a lot of things tried, and that's what we want to see how we can streamline the process of debugging this issue. There are multiple inputs coming from the multiple team members. So some of them have confirmed that there is no packet drop in the UPF.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
So-
if you look at the PCAP, it is obvious that whenever we see the retransmission is coming from the server side because it has not received acknowledgement within few milliseconds. That is also observation I have seen, and
yeah.
that gets tied to one of the person from the Intel Labs had identified that UPF is adding some spike in the processing times randomly. There is no reason, we don't know at what is that reason which is adding the delay. So he had plotted the graph which showed that some of the packets might take, let's say, 20 microseconds to process, but 90% of the packets are taking like less than 4 or 5 microseconds to process. So whether those spikes are the one which is responsible for adding end-to-end more delay, we don't know. So we want to see how we can bring the CPQD and GSLab guys together, and how we bring the developer side together and isolate the problem quickly, because looks like currently every individual is doing a lot of analysis on their side, but there is no group effort or there is no collaboration as of now.
AJ, I think that's a great suggestion with getting a joint debugging session. The one thing I'd add to it is I'd like to see this information captured in a PR so that we know what we have eliminated as suspects along the way, as well as what we're still investigating. We can capture all those the PCAPs, etc.
Yeah, just one more info. Maybe it's useful. We have tested this with a standalone environment, and the same with Ether in a box, using URASIM over the same cluster, and the problem persists even using the same cluster with the same host. So maybe it's something to let you guys know.
Yeah, if you don't mind sending the details about that configuration, that may help us find ways to reproduce it more simply than just asking others to help.
Sure.
So yeah, there are 2 to 3 things have happened. Like Amar from Intel Labs had given some of the configurations on how to avoid or how to support fragmentation within the UPF, which is tried by Daniel, but we don't know whether that was really useful or not. Other thing is that in private Intel Lab, Intel Labs, Gabriel had provided some solution to Daniel, which he tried. He did see probably some improvement, but not like it's not really good. I mean, there is improvement, but it's not something which we can share. And then yeah, I think these 2 things which have came privately or over the Slack, and we want to make sure these similar options are getting tried even by the GSLab, right? So because they are just getting tried on the one of the setup, and we are not using the same analysis on the other setup. So yeah.
Didn't we also just see a report from somebody doing throughput testing on a G-Node B and getting like over 600 megabits?
I think Daniel just confirmed that he did try for the UDP. It was higher, probably 900. I assume that 900 Mbps without any packet drop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So 900 Mbps without any packet drop, but TCP is like 1 Mbps, which is way too low. Right. I mean, we can assume that at least it should have been the 3-digit number. So that's where the problem is. If UDP is also coming same, then we can probably say that it's network problem. It seems to be something around the TCP. And one of the things which we don't know is that whether the GS Lab is definitely using router pod, it seems. I don't know whether the CPQD is using router pod or not. And what I heard yesterday in the Slack conversation is that there are some different MTU settings on the router pod, which can cause the packet drop. So
Ajay, just to let you know, so we tried both with the router and without. With the router would be with Ether in a box, and without would be Ether standalone. So we tried both, and both of them, they are having the same
issue.
issue. Yeah.
Okay, and yeah, we want to isolate whether it's 100% guaranteed that it's issue with the UPF or it's issue with the some other network node in this whole chain, right? So we want to see how we can isolate the problem. But
Yeah,
I think
and another thing,
go ahead.
maybe just another thing that we tried to try to exclude the rest of the network of it, we tried to take the same snapshot with SD core and swap it to Open5GS, and we were able to get a good throughput, no problem with downlink. So more than 400 megabits per second without a problem.
Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to add. Yeah, so this is one more observation made by Daniel, like using some other open source and then seeing that higher throughput. So which probably
Same
points
IP.
fingers to UPF.
Yeah, same IP, same environment, same network. We just swapped the VM to the same snapshot, removing the SD card and putting Open5GS.
Yeah. I just we need to capture these things so everyone is aware that what are the things tried and what is the current analysis still points to something within the UPF. Yunsun, you were saying something.
Yeah, I just I guess you already tried, but you can easily figure out if it's a UPF issue or not, or what module of the UPF is actually causing the trouble by looking at the UPF graph and packet capturing inside the UPF interfaces. Those two mostly helped debugging the any issues with the user plane traffics. But I guess you guys already tried and looked at this.
Yeah, everything on my side, at least everything points to UPF. I don't know exactly how far we are from the vanilla 3.5GC, but I have tried 3.5GC using iPerf, and I was not able to find any TCP downlink problem. So my understanding is more or less the main difference between 3.5GC and SD core is the UPF. Main difference. I know.
Yeah, that's it.
Have you looked at UPF graph? Was there any module that dropping the packets or delayed?
No, not that I was able to find it. Everything sounds like okay. I was not able to find any specific model with the problem. Of course, I can reproduce once again, but I don't think we are able to see over the graph.
So this is like dropping packet. I think you can see it on the graph. I'm not sure whether you see the delays on the graph. Do you see delays?
Yeah, delays. At least I was not able to see it. Is there a way to see it?
No, I mean that's what I mean. I don't want that point to be written in this.
Oh,
diagram.
yeah. Sorry,
Whoever is typing it.
I was.
Yeah. So you just observe there is no packet drop. Yeah, I mean there is a end-to-end measuring the delay that's available. There is a major UPF for some flag. If you turn it on, it shows it gives you the end-to-end delay added by UPF for for the packet processing, which is probably, that's where we can get help from the Gabriel. He has used in the past, and that's default option enabled in the most of the setup. And in fact, we definitely want to disable that option and see if that's solving your problem, because that's something, a debug feature. We don't want to have it on all the time. And so-
Got it.
So I think Scott is typing a lot of things. Yeah, this exactly thing we want to do all these things with on multiple setups and zero down on the problem, because we had seen a lot of good throughput with the UPF in the past. So we don't know what exactly is different in these setups. But we have
Yeah,
used-
Jay, I may be wrong, but from what I checked with Gabriel, it seems like we just tested UDP and not TCP specifically. Maybe I'm
Oh,
wrong,
no,
but this was my understanding.
that's about his own testing, not the ONF.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So as a
Okay.
we had done a lot of throughput testing or speed test in the past. Right? So,
With TCP too.
yeah, only difference is with TCP. Yeah. Only difference could be like we may have tried with the 4G, but UPF remains same. But with NG40, we have tried with the 5G as well, which is the tool and not the real mobile. That's one other difference.
Yeah, but even the emulated environment using URASync, we are seeing the same problem.
Okay.
I know it's not perfect, but yeah.
Mhm.
It's more information to know how reproducible the problem is.
Looks like it's easily reproducible. Only thing is we don't have setup, and that's so.
Yeah, and Siva, if you guys need like for us to have like a meeting, we can of course help each other.
Yeah, I think that's the fastest path to resolution is to get a joint debugging session with you guys.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good.
Yeah, and we'll try to capture most of the details in the either in the Google Doc, some of the analysis, and rest of the PCAPs and all on the Jira, or not on the Jira, but GitHub issues in the UPF repository. So we can ask help from the other members easily, right? So yeah, I think that's what we need to fix the problem. Yeah.
Okay, moving along to UPF GitHub actions.
So that is me, Amol. So last week we proceed and commented the workflow which was causing to block the push. So what happened? There was a GitHub action workflow in UPF repository which formats the code and push the formatted code to the back to the repository. That workflow was done by the GitHub actions, but due to the lacking of permissions, GitHub actions could not able to push that code back, and the test was not been successful. So because of that, there was a lot of wait to push the code to the UPF repository. So in order to proceed ahead, we decided to comment out that workflow. The implication of that will be non-formatted code will be pushed to the UPF repository, but parallelly we are also working on how to get things working about GitHub Actions. So once we will figure that out, we will again activate that workflow, and then formatted code will be pushed back to the repository. So that's just I want to give the update about GitHub Actions.
Amol, during this period of time where you've turned it off, when you finally resolve what the issue is, will the resolution be retroactive? I.e., will we go back to previous submissions and clean them up, or does that have to be done manually?
That I have to figure that out, but I think it will be done automatically because that action will be performed on throughout the repository. So that is my initial guess, but I might be wrong.
Okay. Let it-
You're right, Amol. So at any time we update those, re-add those GitHub actions, the code will get formatted, whole code. So we don't have to go back.
Okay. Thank you, Ajay.
Okay, then, final topic is the Golang 1.19 executor.
Yes, that is me again. Sean, let me tell you that today I'm going to update the lint version in the Docker container to 150. Initially, we actually thought to update lint version, but that time we thought that, okay, there might be some dependencies here and there. That's why we updated, means I updated only Golang version. But today I am going to create a new executor which will have Golang 1.90 and then lint version 1.50. So that will happen today.
Great, thank you, Amal. It's good to hear.
Yes.
And I think that should be enough to fix those problems. Again, we'll focus on Honest Topo. I think I left a note there that there will be in your patch for Honest Topo. There's one more thing needs to be fixed, and that's that is you'll have to put in an extra rule in the Golang YAML. It's there on the PR, and we can discuss it in email anyway.
Sure, that will be great.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, and next up is the buffer size issue. I know there's been a lot of traffic on that, but I haven't been able to keep up with it. Can someone summarize where we're at?
Yeah, I put this in my fundamental question, right? Because we've gone sort of down the rat hole into Golang 119 and the lint versions and all of these pieces. But have we fundamentally tested that increasing the buffer size solves the first order problem of database size in Rock?
So I don't think we have, and I think where it's at, it's kind of a shaving the yak exercise, I would have to say, but I think none of us know how to maintain atomics and regenerate it and republish it with changed gRPC buffer sizes, except for Jordan. And
Gotcha.
Jordan wants to use his latest version of atomics if he is going to make any changes. And for his latest version of atomics, he wants Golang 1.19. So that's where
So as I
are.
understand it, and I may be wrong here, the reason for wanting Golang 119 is to enable that particular gRPC buffer size to be configurable.
I'm not sure the two are directly related.
Okay.
As far as I know, the newer version of atomics is just built on Golang 119 and uses generics in the Go language, as far as I can understand. And so he needs anything, I think, over 1.18 to take advantage, Go 1.18 to take advantage of that. And
here's the heartache I'm having with it, right? It's like, okay, we should be planning out, language upgrades and infrastructure upgrades like that, and we're sort of dragging it in as a bug fix. And I don't even know if the gRPC buffer size increase solves the fundamental problem for which we're taking all of these steps.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that all of those steps are necessary anyway.
At the right time, yeah, but as a blocking issue to a use case, I'm not sure we do it all at the same time.
Mm-hmm. In an ideal world, yeah, we would be able to have somebody resourced to make to spend some time on atomics and, you know, have an experimental branch on it, and have many people be able to do that. But it's not a code that I've ever touched, and I don't know if anyone in ONF has the experience of it either.
No, I'm with you on that front. It's, you know, I understand it's code that Jordan has written and maintained, and he is working on getting to the newer versions. So I'm not worried about that path forward. I just don't want to go through all this work and find out that, well, it turns out it was something more than just the gRPC size.
Right. I think the you know, the course of action, if you wanted to press that train of thought, is to put pressure back on Jordan to spend some cycles evaluating whether the gRPC size is the root cause of your problems.
I may be overly simplistic here, but surely, you know, just compiling it with a larger value, recompiling the affected buys should tell us pretty clearly, okay, it works. Now make it neat and clean and configurable.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we know that it works.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, that sounds like a reasonable approach. That's something Jordan will have to answer.
I'll reach back out to Jordan and push him on this one, because I want to make sure we've uncovered the full set of issues on this, not just we've peeled the onion one layer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we had a long discussion about it when the item came up first, and you know, I feel that the real question, I mean, it's undoubtedly, you know, the 4 megabyte limit is definitely a thing, and I think there will be other places where we'll hit that 4 megabyte limit if, for instance, like we double the size of the configuration. The question is are those points going to be configurable as well?
Right.
And will there be other shaving the yak exercises to expedite those? I mean, we are getting pretty close. I mean, I think you know, we're getting to the point that we almost have Golang 119, but again, I do take the point, there are many layers to the onion, and we don't know what they all are until we get to the core.
Yeah, I worry a little bit just that sending these large gRPC packets seems to be unusual. It doesn't seem to be what people normally do. And if there's some different way that we should have factored the protocol, so that we're not sending such large messages.
Yeah.
But Jordan, again, would be the one who knows why he did what he did and what the alternatives are.
Well, I mean, he does have a plan for the alternative. You know, what's going on here is when you make a transaction change is a small gRPC packet, and the transaction is saved to the atomic store and distributed to other atomics in the same cluster. And then there's a layer below it, which is the what they call the proposal, and these are basically device combinations of all of the configuration of a device, and that can be quite big, and that's the thing that's exceeding the 4 megabyte limit.
Right, so you start shipping the whole tree around, but I mean, as your tree gets bigger, it just seems like this whole thing is going to get slower and slower.
Yeah. And Jordan's proposal then was not to save the tree into the atomic store, to just hold it in memory, because it can be regenerated again from the transaction.
Right.
So that's the longer term approach. I know it's taken so long even to get to this point of the short term solution that it feels like it's a long-term solution, and I don't know how far the other one is down the road. I mean,
this is just the Band-Aid here that we're doing now.
and these are all, you know, pretty concerning for, Aether and all of the stuff we do in Intel as well. So I mean,
Yeah,
I think it is a bigger problem than has been given credit for at the moment. It's something that does worry me about it, and you know, I think even within Intel, we probably need to have a focus back on honest config and the performance
Yeah.
and scaling problems of it, Scott, I would say.
Yeah, I think these, to me, these issues need to be looked at a design level, and we've dropped all the way down to implementation right away.
Mhm.
You know, and whether it's the, you know, I get the fact that we, you know, maybe we do need a short-term one that just increases a gRPC size, but you know, what's the medium and then the long-term solution is, you know, and what balance in time and effort do we make on that should be thought through rather than just, you know, falling into it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll take the action to go back to Jordan and understand the first, you know, the first order questions. But I think we're going to need at least a subset of this team to sit down with Jordan, understand what the plans are going forward with Atomics, and the timing of that, so that we can plan these issues out rather than being sort of dragged into problems.
Mhm.
So what would it take for us to get more people? Do you have enough resources at ONF for someone to become an atomics expert? You know, there's too much knowledge concentration in one person. And I mean, Jordan is fantastic, but it's unfortunate that, you know, neither Sean nor I nor anyone else know how to work on this thing. And I don't know what resource we have that could be, you know, a second person on it.
Short answer is no, I don't. But let me see what we can figure out.
Yeah, it'd just be nice if someone was up to speed, and I just don't know that Sean or I have the time to get up to speed. I mean, we've wanted to in the past, and we've never had the time to do it either.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need a lot of distributed computing expertise.
Yeah.
And you know, it is a very complex it's a specialist problem.
Yeah.
That takes specialist knowledge.
So, so is it like understanding atomics framework or just how to operate?
It's a maintenance of that whole code.
So
It's like development point of view. I think usage is very simple. Yeah, go ahead, Siva.
I'm going to say something that's going to be unpopular. This is Zach.
We didn't even know you were here, Zach. You were hiding behind Andy's line in the chat.
Larry's here too, so hey.
All right.
I second what Zach's going to say.
Get rid of the atomics. I got there before you.
Yeah.
Which is basically that that there's a philosophy about system design and about maintenance that you shouldn't try to always be the largest user of any piece of software you have. So like that you rely on, you want to have somebody else finding all the bugs. And that's not the place we're in right now with Atomics, because we are the biggest user with the most complicated problems in it. And so I guess I'm wondering long-term whether it's useful to keep using Atomics in this way. And maybe we should look at other distributed systems. Not to say that we should like drop it. Like I think there are good reasons to keep it. I mean, some of the design parts of it are great. It's just if we have to maintain it and we can't maintain it, maybe we should look at migrating away. And this is not intended as a slight to Jordan or any of the great work that he's done. It's just, I'm trying to think practically from somebody coming at this from a long-term maintenance standpoint.
Now your point's valid. If we're dependent on something that, you know, we're not in a position to maintain and nobody else is, then we do have to consider alternatives. But let's start with the discussion of where is Atomics going and how is it going to be supported, and then we can move that into the discussion of what are the alternatives if we need to. Fair?
Yeah, and I think there are two different we's at play a little bit. So, I mean, ONF isn't necessarily the largest consumer of atomics anymore. I mean, that could soon be Intel. And, you know, Intel may have to have a discussion about, you know, maintainability of this if it starts to become part of Intel products. And, you know, you guys may benefit from us needing to improve atomics on our side. Because I think the problems you experience we haven't hit them yet, but at some point they're going to become our problems too.
Well, particularly if it's a function of database size, yeah.
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 You know, everyone's going to hit them at a certain point. You know, and if the answer is, well, yeah, there's enough support if Intel and ONF continue down this path, great. So, you know, again, not to make light of or disparage atomics, but I think the question of should we stay on it is valid.
Just my 2 cents, giving a little bit of, this is Andy, giving a little bit of experience from actually maintaining the Pronto deployment and the ROC using atomics. It seems to me that atomics at least hasn't yet solved the problem that it's supposed to solve, which is, you know, high availability, you know, in the face of failure. And what I've seen more often is just failures cascading into a point where I need to like reinstall the system from scratch in order to get things working again. So, I mean, I really haven't seen any value that atomics brings us. I feel like it's made life more difficult in, you know, in the deployment area than actually helping. So
Okay,
that's it.
appreciate the perspective.
So if we were to replace atomics, this sort of, you pull one string and everything starts to unravel. You then have to replace ONOS config, you have to replace ROC. It's not that you can just yank, can you just yank atomics out of ONOS config and have it use a different value store?
Well, again, with my limited knowledge of atomics, Jordan says that atomics really is an API now for a backend store, and he can use etcd or various different distributed data stores behind it. So I guess what we will be talking about is yanking the atomics API and developing directly to each CD, and whether that would be easier or not is a question really that would take some analysis.
Given the way you described it, Sean, it sounds like we'd end up just recreating atomics under some other name.
That's possibly true. Yeah, I wouldn't know enough about the details to answer, but it would be at I mean, it's a fairly clean interface inside ONOS config. You know, it really is a key value store, and it's an API into a key value store. You know, so I mean, in theory, it is possible to replace it. But what would you replace it with? All debates for another day.
Yeah, so I think I'll start with the first steps with Jordan, but I think as a TST team, we're probably going to have a separate discussion around what are the alternatives if we don't see the progress we need to on atomics and we don't see it solving the problems that it was intended to solve. Let's table that portion of the discussion for later, and hopefully not too much further on down the line.
Okay, sounds good. We're at the bottom of the agenda and approaching the top of the hour. Do we have anything more? Well, I think we can go ahead and adjourn then. Thank you, everybody, and we'll
Good
talk
discussion,
again next
folks.
time.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
you.
Hi,
Bye
everyone.
all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.